I never thought I'd be the kind of man who'd become a father. Not because I didn't want to, but because my life didn't leave much room for it. My name is Nathaniel Quinn. I built a company from the ground up, starting with nothing but a cluttered garage, a maxed-out credit card, and the kind of stubbornness that doesn't let you sleep until you prove everyone wrong. Now, at 38, I had everything people are supposed to want: a penthouse that scraped the sky, a closet of tailored suits, a garage with more horsepower than any one man needs, and silence. A lot of silence. I used to tell myself that was the price of success. You don't build empires with bedtime stories and birthday cakes. But sometimes, life doesn't ask if you're ready. Sometimes it just hands you a beating heart and says, "Here, don't screw this up." It started on a rainy Tuesday, the kind where the city feels gray and tired and everyone's umbrella flips inside out. I was supposed to be heading to a board meeting. My driver was stuck in traffic, so I decided to walk the last few blocks. That's when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, soaked to the bone, standing outside the entrance of a bookstore. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She just stood there, holding a torn backpack, eyes locked on the people walking past her like she wasn't even there. Everyone ignored her. But I couldn't. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way her jaw was set, stubborn and defiant. Maybe it was because once upon a time, I'd stood in a similar rain, waiting for someone to notice I existed. I knelt beside her. "Hey," I said gently. "You okay?" She looked up. Big brown eyes. Mud on her cheeks. Her lip trembled, just for a second. Then she nodded. "I'm fine." Liar. The police came. So did social services. Turns out, her name was Lina. Her mother had passed away months ago. Father unknown. No relatives who wanted to take her in. She'd been bouncing from one overcrowded foster home to the next. Her caseworker looked exhausted when she said, "She's bright, but she doesn't attach. She's been through a lot." I couldn't stop thinking about her. Something about Lina haunted me. Maybe it was how quiet she was. How she didn't ask for help. How she had already learned not to expect kindness from anyone. That night, in my 3,000-square-foot apartment with its cold marble floors and panoramic city views, I sat at the dining table alone, food untouched, and thought about a little girl who had no one. And for the first time in years, I felt something crack open in me. The next morning, I called the caseworker back. What would it take, I asked, for me to become her legal guardian? There was a pause on the line, then a stunned voice. "Mr. Quinn, this isn't like adopting a puppy. She's been through real trauma. This would be a long process. You'd need to commit. Not just money, time. Patience. Love." I took a deep breath. My voice didn't shake. "I understand. I'm not asking to rescue her. I'm asking to show up." And so it began. What I didn't know then was that Lina wasn't just going to become part of my life. She was going to redefine it. She was going to shatter every wall I'd built, challenge every belief I had about myself, and bring light to a place I didn't even realize had been dark. But first, I had to earn her trust. And that would be the hardest deal I'd ever negotiate. Becoming Lina's legal guardian wasn't simple. It took 4 months of paperwork, psychological evaluations, background checks, and meetings where every smile I offered was met with suspicion. I had to prove, over and over again, that I wasn't doing this for image or guilt or vanity. I didn't care. Because when I visited Lina in that group home, and she peeked at me from behind the pages of a tattered picture book, something in me anchored. She didn't need a savior. She needed consistency. The day she officially moved into my apartment, I made pancakes. She didn't touch them. She just stood in the kitchen doorway, backpack on both shoulders like she might bolt any second. "This place is too clean," she muttered. I smiled. "We can fix that." But she didn't smile back. Those first few weeks were brutal. Lina didn't talk much. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just existed, like a ghost in my home. Quiet steps. Blank stares. Doors never fully closed. The only time I saw flickers of emotion was when she had nightmares. At 3 a.m., I'd find her curled on the hallway floor, clutching a small stuffed raccoon I later learned had belonged to her mom. She wouldn't let me near her. So I'd just sit across the hall in silence until she fell asleep again. People around me didn't understand. My lawyer asked, why not just donate to a foundation instead? A business partner warned, this could get messy. Think of your reputation. Even my housekeeper whispered, sir, children like her, they're difficult. But I didn't care about what was easy. I cared about her. One evening, I came home late from a meeting. Lina was in her room, drawing. I peeked in. She had filled an entire sketch pad with crayon scribbles, but one page made me stop. It was a drawing of two stick figures, one tall, one small, standing next to a sun and a tree. Above it, in shaky handwriting, were the words, "Not my real dad, but he waits for me." I almost broke, not because it was flattering, but because it meant she saw me. Trust isn't built overnight. It's built in moments. Like when I let her choose the color of her bedsheets, neon green with dinosaurs. Or when she got a stomach bug and threw up on my Armani shoes, and I didn't flinch, just cleaned her up and held her all night. Or when I found her hiding under the piano during a thunderstorm, hands over her ears, and I sat there with her until the storm passed. Slowly, the walls began to lower. She started humming when she walked, asking questions, calling me Nate instead of Mr. And then, one morning, 3 months in, she sleepily wandered into the kitchen, wrapped her arms around my leg, and said, "Good morning, Dad." She said it like it was no big deal. But to me, it was everything. She wasn't just changing my home. She was changing me. I stopped staying at the office till midnight. I started baking. I learned how to braid hair, poorly, but still. I even got used to watching cartoons over stock reports. And for the first time since I could remember, life felt alive. But peace never lasts, does it? Because just when I thought Lina and I had found something real, someone from her past showed up and threatened to take her away. It happened on a Wednesday. The kind of ordinary day that ends up splitting your life in two. I was helping Lina with her science project, building a volcano out of clay and vinegar explosions. She was laughing, really laughing. And then the doorbell rang. At first, I thought it was a delivery. But standing there was a woman in a stiff gray blazer and a man beside her holding a clipboard. Between them stood a stranger, mid-30s, scruffy, eyes darting like he'd already memorized the layout of my home. "Mr. Quinn," the woman asked. "I'm with Child Services. This is Mark Weller. He's filed a petition for custody of Lina." My heart stopped. "I'm sorry, who?" The man stepped forward. "I'm her biological uncle. On her father's side." Father's side? The same father no one ever located? The one listed on all the records as unknown. Suddenly, this man appears, out of nowhere, claiming to be family. I didn't let them inside. I told them, calmly but firmly, that my lawyer would be in contact. But the second I shut that door, I broke into a cold sweat. Because no matter how many lunches I'd packed, how many nightmares I'd stayed up through, how many drawings Lina gave me with Dad scribbled in crayon, I wasn't blood. And the law? The law doesn't always care about love. Lina saw my face that night. "You look scared," she whispered. I tried to lie, just tired. But she wasn't a fool. She crawled up next to me on the couch, tucked under my arm like it was her shield, and asked, "Are you going to leave me?" That question broke something inside me. Because no child should have to ask that. I fought. Hard. My lawyer launched an investigation. We dug into Mark's records. Found evidence he'd only learned of Lina's existence 3 weeks prior, after hearing a rumor about a wealthy man fostering a little girl. He didn't care about Lina. He cared about leverage. About headlines. About me. And Lina? She knew. She started waking up in tears again, begging not to go to school, asking if she was just temporary. No matter how many times I told her she was mine, I could see it, she didn't believe it. Because every adult before me had let her go. But then came the hearing. The courtroom felt colder than usual. Mark showed up with a lawyer who smirked like this was already decided. Like I was just some man playing house. Lina sat beside me, holding my hand. She wore a navy dress with stars. The one she said made her feel brave. And then the judge asked a question I'll never forget. "Miss Lina, do you feel safe in Mr. Quinn's home?" She nodded. "Why?" Lina stood up. She cleared her throat. "Because he waits. He doesn't yell. He doesn't walk away when I'm hard to love." Silence. Even the judge looked shaken. The court ruled in our favor. Mark's claim was rejected. The judge wrote that the bond between guardian and child, though not biological, is evident, secure, and critical to the child's well-being. We went home. We didn't celebrate. We didn't talk much. We just curled up on the couch and breathed. That night, Lina gave me a drawing. It was us, holding hands under a tree, and written in careful block letters. "Dad isn't who made me. Dad is who stayed." But I wasn't done. That moment changed me again. Because if I could fight this hard for one girl, maybe I wasn't just meant to build things for money. Maybe I was meant to build something that would outlive me. A family. After the custody hearing, life didn't magically turn into a fairy tale. There were still nightmares. Still mornings when Lina clung to me like I'd vanish if she blinked. Still moments when I caught her staring out the window, her small brow furrowed like she was waiting for the world to fall apart again. But something was different. She smiled more. She danced to music in the kitchen. She let herself be a kid again. And I stopped being a man who ran from feelings. I leaned in. One day, Lina came home from school with a flyer in her backpack. A school fundraiser for children in foster care. She looked up at me and said, "Can we help? Like other kids like I used to be." I felt my throat tighten. "Yeah," I said. "We can do more than help." And that night, I stayed up building a plan. Not a business plan. Not a pitch deck. A mission. I used my resources, my name, my company to launch a nonprofit focused on transition support for foster kids aging out of the system. Housing, mentorship, therapy, legal protection. And every time I stood on a stage or sat in a boardroom asking for funding, I told one story. Lina's. Because numbers don't move people. But truth does. Months passed. The nonprofit grew. And so did Lina. She started writing stories. Beautiful, strange little tales about found families and skyships and children made of light. One evening, she showed me one she was too shy to read aloud. It was about a girl who got left behind, until a lonely inventor found her. At the end, the girl builds a new home, not out of bricks or money or magic, but out of trust. The last line said, "And the inventor learned, when you fix a broken heart with love, it beats stronger than before." And then, there was her. Sophie. She was a social worker who helped advise our foundation. Brilliant, dry-witted, unshakably patient. She called me out when I was too controlling and told Lina bedtime stories in French, which made her giggle like a maniac. Lina loved her. And over time, so did I. I'd spent so long thinking I didn't deserve love, that I'd missed my chance, that people only showed up when it was convenient. But Sophie, she showed up for the hard parts. And when I finally told her I loved her, nervous, uncertain, she just smiled and said, "I know. I've been waiting for you to say it." A year later, we married. Not in a castle or a country club, but in the park where I first taught Lina to ride a bike. She was our flower girl. And when the officiant said, "Do you take this man?" Lina shouted before Sophie could answer. She already did. Everyone laughed. I cried. Today, we're a family. Not perfect, not flawless, but whole. Lina still has scars. So do I. So does Sophie. But together, we've built something stronger than blood or contracts or fear. We built home. Final words. I used to believe success was measured in dollars, stocks, and real estate. Now I know better. It's in every giggle at the dinner table. Every whispered, "I love you," after lights out. Every time Lina reaches for my hand and knows it'll always be there. I thought I was saving her. But truth is, she saved me first.